Welcome to Astrology Hub TV, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Amanda Poole Walsh, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Astrology Hub. And Astrology Hub TV is a weekly show dedicated to helping you explore your connection to the cosmos and how cultivating this connection can help you live a more empowered, fulfilled, and vibrant life. We're here live every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. If you'd like to receive a Facebook message alert every time that we go live, you can do so by signing up for live alerts. The link for that is in the chat and also in the description above this video. So today we are so excited to be here with our special guest, Tyler Penor. He is making his Astrology Hub debut today. And we're going to dive into our conversation with him here very soon. But before we do that, I just wanted to let you know about a free gift that we have available for you. We are about to come up on a powerful full moon in Scorpio. And some of you may have downloaded our free 2018 calendar back in January. But if you haven't downloaded that now, I highly recommend that you do, because we still have more than half the year left. And every new and full moon, we offer a lot of guidance for you through this calendar. So the first thing that we offer is a theme. So the full moon theme for this Scorpio full moon is persistence. And then we also include an affirmation. So the one for this one coming up is "My soul keeps perfect time." And then we offer a journal question. So the one for this full moon is "Consider the differences between persistence and impatience, and how has each shaped your life?" So again, every new and full moon has a theme, an affirmation, and a journal prompt. You can download this gift now. It's totally free to you. It's also beautifully designed by our graphic designer and our Astrology Hub team. So again, you are welcome to download that. The link for that is in the chat and also above this video. All right, so today we're going to be talking about living astrology and how astrology reveals a pattern that exists throughout life and even within ourselves. When we see that vision and the pattern that connects us, then we can live a life of harmony with all that is and walk the path of the healer. So in this talk with professional astrologer and creator of the School of Living Astrology, Tyler Penor, you are going to learn about the living archetypes in astrology and how to reconnect with them. You're also going to learn about the cosmological stories of life and nature that reveal secret patterns, and how the simple act of observing nature can be your greatest teacher. Today's episode is for you if you feel a connection to nature, if you want to know more about the real patterns that connect us all, if you want to take astrology from knowledge to experience, and if you want to live a more meaningful life. My guess is that's pretty much all of you. So I think this is going to be a great one for all of us. Okay, before we dive in, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about our guests. Tyler Penor is a heart-based astrologer who lives in the beautiful evergreen state of Washington with his partner and herbalist, Mamie Wartell, and their dog, Sequoia. He is a practicing astrologer whose mission is to restore the art back to its roots as a tool for understanding ourselves so that we may live in balance and harmony with the world that we live in. In his work, he seeks to share this vision of astrology with others through the art of storytelling and observing the living elements of nature. The focus of his work is to utilize astrology as a tool for gaining wisdom, clarity, health, and healing. All right, so how many of you out there have heard of living astrology? I'd love to know if you can chat in, if you've heard of living astrology, and if you have, can you share with us how it's affected your experience of astrology? So I'll be looking at your responses, would love to hear from you, and thank you so much for joining us. All right, Tyler, so let's dive in. My first question for you is about you and how you actually got into astrology.
Yeah, well, it was actually when I was really young. It was, really simple. From really hearing about it from my mom, it's funny. She used to always say, your mom, I'm a Taurus, I'm a bull, don't mess with me. And your dad, he's a Leo, he thinks he's the king, and you're a Libra though, you're a people person, And so I specifically remember that time too, and it was, I was really young, and so I was like, so when we're born has something to do with how we are, and so obviously it was at that point just that stuff, the sun sign astrology. And so I kind of always was interested in that and would know my friends, birth dates. And then when I was about 14 or 15, I came across that book, you know, the only astrology book you'll ever need, which isn't technically true, um, but I came across that and realized there was a whole birth chart. You know, before that, I wasn't aware of that, um, and so me being, you know, I was kind of that kid who was like, well, how does that work and why and how come, you know, always asking questions, wanting to know, you know, why about everything. And so astrology really kind of filled that like eager need to want to figure things out and see how things work. And so I remember too, I was like, oh, so I knew there was more than 12 people on this planet, you know. And so I dove into that, you know, started studying kind of on my own, and um, through my later teen years, and, you know, reading all the information I could on it. And it always, you know, rang true to me, but there was also something I felt that was kind of missing. And um, later on in my late teens, early 20s, I went through some, you know, hard times, addictions, and ended up coming out the other side of that. And astrology was this thing that always was there, that really gave me some clarity as to what I was going through, and showed me different ways I could try and work with, you know, things in my life. And so it was like that tool that helped me get through that point. And so after I kind of put my life back together and started kind of following my own healing path and getting back in tune with nature and the elements, and learning different, you know, indigenous cultures and healing practices, and that fused together with the astrology. And I remember I had this kind of question dawn of like, so if astrology works, where did it come from? Or how can I interact with these symbols in real life, and not just in my mind or you know, in a book or something, but how, if it works, it's all around us. And so I started to kind of dive into watching and observing nature, and going, okay, there's fire signs, there's earth signs. Okay, well, let's look at that element. And through observing the elements and the way they move, these patterns started emerging. And from that, these kind of stories and these cosmological stories started getting created. And it all just made sense to me. So I was just learning it, how it made sense to me. And I started sharing that with people, you know, friends around fires. And I always got the same exact response when I'd share these stories, which was, wow, I've never heard it put that way, but now it all makes sense, you know. And it was like, that was what everybody kept saying. And eventually people started asking me to look at their charts, you know, hey, will you look at my chart? And so I was like, sure. I started looking at people's charts, and then it kept getting asked more and more and more and more. And that was like 7 or 8 years ago. And now I'm doing it for a living, and people wanted to learn, you know, this way of working with astrology. And so I put the school together, and yeah, now I'm here, you know. So it's been a great journey, and I love helping people any way I can, you know, and helping people tune back in with themselves and nature and life, and live a good balanced life. That's the goal, you know.
Yes.
So astrology to me is just a tool in that way, that is very helpful in understanding and healing, and just witnessing the natural beauty all around us. You know, it's pretty profound in that way, how it allows you to see those things. So that's how I got into it.
All right. Okay, so it's been an evolution over time. I love that your mother introduced it to you so early on. I have a 9 and a 6-year-old, and we talk about it all the time. And I'm wondering how that will influence their life and their path. So it's cool to see that it's influenced you in such a positive way. Okay, so Tyler, why living astrology? Like, tell us what that means, and why you chose those words for the work that you do.
Yeah, well, since it was all my astrology work was born from these stories that are really just these stories of life, these patterns of, you know, the seasons and the elements. And so everything was life focused, you know, and so it just kind of naturally grew into wanting to understand the living qualities of astrology, you know, in our life and in our everyday things that we do. And so living astrology just seemed to fit in that way. And that's really it too, is my work with astrology is equally focused on living as it is just the astrology and the study of that, but really the, you know, bringing it to life, and kind of bringing it back down to earth in a way too, because sometimes it can get when we dive into some of the mental stuff, it's super interesting, but also how do we bring it back in? So that's been my approach to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and tell us about the living archetypes in astrology and how we can reconnect to them.
So, so basically, like those stories I was telling you about, the living archetypes, to kind of give you a simple version is, let's just take the elements, for example. We have the 12 signs, and they're made of the 4 elements. So we have fire, earth, air, and water. And then there's the Trinity within each element. And if we look out at life, we'll see each element has 3 expressions. For example, the fire has a spark, it has the light and the flame, and then it has the heat and the warmth. Water has liquid water and still water, like frozen water or lakes, and then the clouds and the vapors. And so what I've learned is these signs, of like Aries, it shows itself through the spark, and so if we want to understand Aries, I always tell people you can actually throw all the things away that you've learned about it and look at that element express itself in that way, and you can learn all about it, and then through that you can see that we just are reflections of life and the elements. And so like when I work with people, if they're having, say, a hard time in a certain area of life where maybe that sign is, I'll direct them to go to that element and learn from that element in that specific way. And it really brings it to life. And then even people who learn, the students they're learning, I show them and tell them to go to those elements and learn from them instead of just, learning about it in the mind, but get to know it, get to know the Scorpio still waters of a lake, or a pond, and just be around it, and so that's how I see those living archetypes. And then the way that they work through the timing mechanism of the seasonal cycle, and also the pattern of the day. We have really each day we go through a mini version of the seasons. Sunrise is the spring, noon is summer, sunset is fall, and midnight's winter. The colors are the same, the feeling is the same. That new light of the morning, the white kind of colors that come out, the noontime, is like the summer, the heat is out, all the colors are out. We have the sunset and those golden hues like the fall time. And then midnight is like winter, it's darker. And even, at winter, we see the snow come down and you look up at the sky and you see the stars, so it's that spirit, that living spirit is within those things. And so by paying attention to those, you can learn a lot about astrology and how it's, living and breathing all around us, and that these symbols aren't just these dead symbols, they're within everything, and so we see us as this reflection to nature. And by learning about it and witnessing it in nature, we start to understand ourselves, and then that bridge can happen, which is where the healing happens. The elements heal, nature heals, and astrology is just this language, this guide to connect with those living qualities, those living spirits. And then we feel complete, we feel whole, we feel connected, and that's the goal. To me, that's why we study astrology, to understand and connect more to life. So that's what I'm saying about the living archetypes, that are around us. So
wow, I have never thought of the day that way. And already when you're saying how when we connect to that pattern and that rhythm of nature, that there's a healing in it for us, I can really feel what you're talking about, because it's true. We are every single day living through all these different cycles, and feeling that connection, that deeper connection with them, helps us realize that we're not alone, that we're in connection, we're in relationship, communion with everything around us. So beautiful. How do you tie this into the way that you approach a chart, or the way that you would sit down with a client for a reading?
Yeah, so basically everything I do, the seed of it are those stories, those cosmological stories. I have a story that I share of the signs, and I go through that pattern, and then the planets as well, which is really fascinating. Starting at the sun and showing how it relates to each layer of our being. And then the houses, there's a story with those as well. So when I started working with astrology, that's all I had was those stories, the way I understood it. And so when people started asking me to look at their charts, I literally just applied that understanding of those stories to them. And I found it really important to listen to people's life story. And so before every consultation, I ask, my clients to tell me their general life story. Start at the beginning. How was your upbringing? What were your parents like? And I tell them to bring it to the present moment. What's going on now? What insights are they looking for? And then what do they want to see going forward? What's their vision for themselves? So while they're expressing that, I get to see how they've used their chart. And by listening to them, it brings the chart to life instead of kind of reducing them to this, set of symbols. I bring the chart up to their life. So it's kind of like I filter their life through it. I kind of say it's like, we have the horoscope is like a telescope, but if we don't point our telescope at anything, we're not going to see anything. So it's the same with the horoscope. We have to allow their life, to come through that. So I just work with those stories and the elements and reveal to them, okay, this is how nature works. This is that story of nature. And here's your story you told me about. And then through that, we see where there's maybe disconnects or imbalances. So to put it simply, I'm just sharing the story of nature, listening to their story and putting them together, and it heals. It helps, and the insights are really profound. And all my clients always love just how tangible it is, because I can give them tools and places to go in nature, times of day. So that's really what it is. It's like we're consulting the chart and the story of nature and life, and seeing where maybe that imbalance is. And the chart just directly shows us that, and shows also where, someone's, gifts are and where some possible challenges would be. But by the way they've used them in their life, there's other ways. It's kind of like I always say, if you have like a planet, in a sign, it's like a tool, it's a color that we have, but you can use that tool infinite amount of ways. With like a hammer, you can build a house, you can tear a house down, you could paint it and put it on your wall. So seeing how somebody has used that tool, in their chart, that's where the insights come from. And then I just offer, okay, well, if you've used it this way and you've gotten this result, what if you were to use it this way? So that's how we look at the chart, and just allow the chart to speak, allow it to show things. And so yeah, it's very much more of a conversation, and not as much as like a kind of linear technique kind of thing. I just really allow the moment to unfold and the chart to speak, and it helps. It's quite amazing, actually.
Yeah, can you give us an example of one of the most memorable experiences you had with a client?
Yeah, there's so many. For example, actually, this one's pretty good example of just how sometimes the simple things can really be the most profound. I had a client one time that wanted to get a consultation with me, but was, I guess, kind of hesitant. I didn't know at the point that we did it, but we did this consultation, and she was talking a lot about relationships and her struggle with that. And then I think it was, I just noticed, okay, she had Chiron in the 7th house and in Taurus, and so somehow our conversation got to maybe getting some kind of physical body work done by someone else or whatever could open something up there, just go to that, maybe, something that awakens your senses, and so later on, she told me, she's like, yeah, I was afraid to get a consultation because I'd gotten one from an astrologer previously, and they kind of scared me. They told me I'd never get married, or I'd be a bad mom, and all these kind of things. I'm like, who are these people, But anyway, she did. A week later, she went and got a massage done, and she met who is now her husband, and they have 2 kids now, and they're super happy. And
Oh my gosh, that gives me chills. That's
that
amazing.
little thing, and I love that. And even another student had she was having her Uranus opposition right on Chiron. Uranus was going right on Chiron the day we were talking about it, and she had it in Aries. And so I was just talking about the spark and trying to start a fire, without a lighter, and getting in tune with that Aries kind of quality. And she did, and she said that all the things we talked about, the most important thing to her was that spark. And she lit a fire on her own, and through that she got this vision, and now she's an alchemist and makes all these medicines and started getting asked by all these people. And so her whole kind of daily life changed, and it was also in her sixth house. So so just those little things like that, I think just the working with the elements is what my main technique is, and trying to just be kind of like point them in the direction. You know, I don't really give them answers, I just encourage. And so those are some of the memorable ones, but it's things like that that I always hear, you know, is just the little couple words you say sometimes are the whole consultation, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not all the things we say. So
It's true. It's those the few golden nuggets that stick with someone. It's like, yes, I can take that. Well, and I think what you're saying is really reinforcing. I hope many of you are listening out there to this, because so many times people hesitate and don't offer their guidance yet because they feel like they need so much more information. You've got to keep studying, got to learn this technique and that technique. I mean, what you're explaining is so practical and elegant and simple. And I think that is a good reminder for some of you out there who may feel like you need more and more information before you're ready. You may be able to offer, these very simple and practical guidance based on nature, based on the elements. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, we all have wisdom in us, and usually the way I see it is, if someone comes to you for help, you can help them. You know, if you're coming from your heart and you're trusting that, and even if you know just a little bit about astrology, you can take that little bit and just share from your heart and trust, and it's going to help. You know, it always does. It's like the language of astrology, the tool of it is just a guide to help find those little nuggets of wisdom that we all have and can share with one another. And then obviously the more that you do it, you get to know the language. It's like it speaks louder and more. But I always do that. I always say that, and encourage anybody who's studying astrology is like, just start looking at charts, just start interacting with people, and just trust and come from your heart. Because that's all astrology is anyway. It's a map for our mind to get back in tune with our heart. That's why through a consultation at the end, you don't, at least I don't think you really tell anybody anything they don't already know in their heart. It just validates, because our mind is a little crazy, but our heart is really wise. So, that's, to me, what I've seen is through doing consultations with people, we're just reorganizing the mind and getting it back aligned with the heart, and trusting in that again. And that validation of that is what helps people, and then you just encourage that, and it works every time, so yeah, you don't have to know all the details. It's really awesome to learn all that stuff, and especially for your own, wanting to know all those little details, and it's fascinating, but as far as interacting with people and helping people to heal, it's actually sometimes the simple things are the most profound. So
I hope some people are taking notes out there. So many things that you just said are completely noteworthy. They're the kinds of quotes that I would love to put on pretty backgrounds and share with everybody. Okay, Tyler, so if someone wants to get more intimate with living astrology and the way that you're interacting with nature and the elements, what's one tip you could give them to get started?
Well, get out in nature or pay attention. Obviously, the best thing you can do, I think, is learn the basics, of the pattern of the signs, and just start the journey. Really, like, astrology is a journey, and it's a journey through life, and it's a language that can help us, and it's ancient and it's universal. The pattern within astrology is in every one of the sacred sciences. Every culture has its form of astrology, which is just a way of understanding life. The sun rises and it sets, and the seasons move, and through us paying attention with that pattern, we're going to start to see things. And so for me, I have like the basic stories I share with people, and that's like a little seed. Just seeing the simple thing of like, Aries is the spark, Taurus is the mineral kingdom, Gemini is the wind, Cancer is liquid water. Leo is the flames. Virgo is the plant kingdom. Libra is the atmosphere, the oxygen. Scorpio is still waters, the lakes, the ice. Sagittarius, the heat, the warmth. Capricorn, the animal kingdom. Aquarius, space. And Pisces, the vapors, the clouds. And just with that, you can just take that and go live your life and pay attention, go sit with those elements, and it's just going to be revealed to you, and yeah, that's what I would say is that's how I learned it and understood it, was having the basics, knowing the symbols, but then seeking out to meet those symbols, to interact with them and have them tell me about them, and so that's what I encourage is the symbols of astrology are not dead symbols. They're alive. They're living. You can call them spiritual beings, but they're alive, and they can teach you. If you go to them, you will learn. And to me, that's been the most profound shift when I was from my first studying astrology to then turning to that and saying, I want to not keep learning about astrology. I want to learn from astrology. I want to go and put all of this into action and meet these these qualities that exist in me and exist everywhere outside. So that's what I would encourage, I guess, is just start the journey and enjoy it too, because there's so much beauty, and astrology is a universal pattern. It's kind of like I was saying, all cultures, they have their form of astrology. It's kind of like dancing and singing. It's universal, it's everywhere. So, and through that, you're going to awaken then your own vision, your own way of each one of us relate to an element in our own unique way. So that's why each astrologer, their way of astrology is unique to them. It's just like we all are unique in that way, but what it all boils down to is the pattern we're looking at is identical. We're all looking at the same life, so that's why, Eastern astrology, Western, all of this, like, they seem different, but really they're identical in their patterning. We're all looking at the same living life. And so that's what I encourage, I guess, is to seek out how to understand that core pattern that exists and created all the branches of astrology. And that's my passion, is to find that and to help others to see that. My greatest passion in the work that I do is helping to facilitate that aha moment in somebody of, oh, that's what astrology is and can be, and so yeah, I guess that's that's the way it makes sense to me that way. So I just try and share what makes sense, yeah.
Beautiful. What a perfect ambassador for this approach that you are. Melanie says, can I have that in a list? So you went through all the signs and the elemental kind of representative of them. Mm-hmm. What I would say, Melanie, is you will be able to actually, after this video, you can rewind to that point. I don't know, we were probably at about 24 minutes in, 25 mm-hmm. minutes in. But yeah, that's just super helpful in and of itself.
Yeah.
What you did there. Okay. So what do you, I love asking this question to astrologers because we always get amazing responses from it. And what I'm finding is that many of you don't actually run into much of this at this point in your careers, but I'm going to ask you anyways. What do you say to critics of astrology or people that you run into that are just like, that's a bunch of BS or whatever they say? What do you say to them?
Well, multiple things. I guess I would say first, the astrology you think is BS. I don't believe in that either, because that's not what it is. But I do love, though, I have been challenged by a lot of, especially the very scientific minded people. But I share those stories with them, and then it's over. It's kind of undeniable when you see it. And you realize that it's a pattern. And I tell them it's not about seeing the future, or predicting the future. And that really just the general astrology and the way that it's shown in, the magazines and stuff, that's that's not even the same thing. That's just entertainment. And but I always say, okay, you want to know astrology? Do you see the sunrise? Yes. Okay, well, there's astrology. Do you see the seasons change? That's astrology. So if you don't believe in the seasons, and you don't believe in the earth spinning and the way the plants grow, then you cannot believe in astrology. But yeah, those are kind of the things I go to. But I do love the challenge, and I love I've definitely, through sharing those stories that I've been talking about, have changed many people's perception and mind on the validation of astrology and where it comes from. So
do you have stories of the planets, like similar to the stories you went through of the signs? Would you mind just running through those? Because it was really interesting to hear how you did the signs.
Yeah, so I'd love to. So basically, I just talk about how the solar system, it's got these layers to it, and the way it's shaped, the way it moves, the speed of it, the timing of it, we live inside of it, so we're shaped by that. So each layer of the solar system represents a different layer of our own human consciousness. So just by observing how they move and what they look like, even in their speed, it shows us about them. So the sun sits at the center. The sun gives life to the rest of the planets. Without the sun, there's no solar system. So the sun represents our core life force. It's our life body. So it sits at the center, it's the light that shines from us. So that's why it has to do with our vitality and things. And then Mercury spins really fast around the sun. Well, what revolves really fast around our consciousness is our mind. So Mercury, the mental body, and so the thing is, though, Mercury, he's so close to the center, sometimes he thinks he is the center, It's like our mind thinks, yeah, me, but it's the first one to receive the light of the sun, that consciousness, and pass out the light to the rest of the planets. So that's the role of Mercury, is the mind, and then we have Venus, and Venus is that internal receptive feminine layer. It's like, what does the mind use? It uses the senses, and so it's the receptive body. And then we have the Earth, which is the physical body. It's our actual physical body. That's where the ascendant and all that takes place. So that's why it's our, body of Earth. And then the moon revolves around the Earth. Just like Mercury, the mind revolves around our consciousness, the moon, our emotions, move around our physical body. So they're both satellites. They're similar in that way. The mind collects information for our consciousness, and the moon for the body, and that's why on a new moon, the moon's on the inside of that Earth layer. So internalized emotions. On a full moon, it's on the outside. And even, the rhythm of the moon itself, we have 13 full moons a year. We have 13 major joints in our body, the ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, elbows, wrists, and the neck. It's that 13th point. And even the near 28 days of a moon cycle, we got the 28 joints in our hands, so all of that interacts. And so then we get to Mars, which is the first layer outside of that physical Earth body. So it's the active principle. It's how we go out and move into this external world now with all of these things. So it's like, how do we run and jump and do things? And so even if, and the other really fascinating thing is that it takes a planet, a full journey around our chart from when we were born for it to fully wake up, for it to become, because it's gone through every house, every sign, and over every planet. So Mars is a 2-year cycle. And so at 2, we see Mars awaken, the terrible 2s. And it's like Mars has awoken, and we run and jump and throw temper tantrums. And so, so then after Mars, we get to Jupiter. And Jupiter is now that expansive, gas body. So it's large and big, and it's roughly a 12-year cycle. Well, what happens at 12? We have puberty, and we literally expand and grow. And it's our story, it's our beliefs. And at that age too, we start to formulate our own story. We start to formulate our own beliefs, and we're even told, better now, you can learn on your own. And then even in between Mars and Jupiter is an asteroid belt. In between our actions and our goals and the story and the lessons we're learning, from Jupiter, there's all these roadblocks and challenges and things we can run into, and so then we get to Jupiter. He's jolly Jupiter. He believes in everything. He's that planet of belief. And so, Jupiter says, if you believe, you can do anything, and so we go and we're like, all right, yeah. And then all of a sudden Saturn comes along and says, yes, but, just because you believe you can fly doesn't mean you can just jump off of a thing. You have to work with these laws of reality. And so he's this gas planet with, ice and rock rings around him. And so he brings us our limitations and our teachings, and he's the last planet we can see with our physical eye. So he's that boundary layer of the seen world. So there's kind of these boundaries, right? The Earth is the boundary between the internal planets and the external. So, and the moon passes through that. Saturn is that boundary of the visible world we call reality, and, being that, roughly 29, 30-year cycle too, at that age, it's like, we now know our limitations, hopefully we can take responsibility. And so Saturn is awakening at that time. So now we're not a kid, we're reaching adulthood around 30. And so Saturn, he's that kind of that teacher type, and layer of our fears even, which are our teachings, our limitations. And so then, he's the last planet we can see with our eye. And so to Saturn, we're all the same. You're a human, we all live and born, die. All the cedar trees are all cedar trees, but we all know there's something unique in each and every one of us. So that's the planet Uranus. Uranus is that unique, energetic, electrical quality that exists through it. It's like, you can look at all these cedar trees out here. They're all cedar trees, but each one has its own unique path of growth. And if we look, like right now, you and I, we're looking at this world we call reality, there must be a piece of us sitting just outside and observing it. And so Uranus I call like the watcher, the observer. You could call it the higher mind, but it's that seat that is observing all of those things within Saturn, our whole reality. And even the way he's kind of like this eyeball, right? So that's what Uranus is. 84-year cycle, takes a whole, roughly a human lifetime, to develop. And then we get to the next planet, which is Neptune. And Neptune is that realm of dreams and visions, imagination. And these planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, are not visible by the naked eye. So in reality too, it's like, I can't show you my Uranus observer within me. It's existing everywhere, but I can't just show it to you. And same with our dreams and our imagination. And so, so even with Uranus being that observing point, when our waking reality is Uranus looking in at Saturn, our waking reality. And then we all go to sleep and we all go to this place called the dream world. It's universal. We all have dreams. And that's when Uranus kind of turns and looks out the other direction towards Neptune. And if we think about it too, Neptune is the source of everything. If you look around, everyone right now, look around you right now, every single thing a human created was first a vision, a dream, or in their imagination. So being in tune with that Neptune side, being in tune with our dreams, it gives us the ability to, it's like everything becomes possible there. And so that's what that layer of Neptune is like, that realm of the dreams and the visions. And then we get to Pluto, that outer tiny little guy, but very powerful. It's like, that's the human soul that we all share. We're all a part of that one life and death cycle itself. And the bringer of death is the bringer of life. And so also representing our kind of our purpose and our power, that like, what's that main purpose? And then the final one that I love is Chiron. And Chiron, he moves in a unique pattern. He weaves together that boundary we were talking about with Saturn. So, the furthest out he is out by, Uranus and the Neptune zone. And then he comes back in and he crosses that boundary of the seen world of Saturn and goes in between Uranus or Jupiter and Saturn. And then he goes back out. So he's weaving together the seen and the unseen. And that's the healing path. That's the healing journey is, when we're on the inside, we look out at Saturn, say we're with Chiron there. Before we leave that zone of Saturn, we see it as our fears and our limitations and suffering and all of that. But we begin that healing journey and we start to move and go beyond that. And we start to get in tune with Uranus, our uniqueness, our individuality, get in tune with our spirit and our dreams and our visions. And then hopefully also reach that Pluto point. Oh, what's the main purpose? Why am I here? Where does my power exist? And so then we make it out there, we get out to Pluto, and now we have that. Then we come back in, Chiron helps us come back in. Now we have our purpose, we have our power, we understand our humanity, we understand we're this is that one life we're living. We have our spirit intact, our vision. And now we have that Uranus, observation point. We know how to change our reality now. And we've kind of awakened to a new way of seeing things. And then where we met Saturn, the teacher, on the way out, now we become a teacher. Where we met Chiron and he helped us heal, now we can help others heal. Where Jupiter inspired us to grow, now we can inspire others to grow. Mars was that warrior who taught us how to act. Now we can in turn share that with people. And the moon nurtured us and the earth, and now we can nurture the earth, and Venus gave us our senses, to relate things. Now we can relate this whole journey and we can put it into words, and then we can embody the solar system at the sun. So there's an out breath and an in breath with that, story. And so that's the story, kind of just looking at the planets and how they move. And it started really simple. There's a lot more to it. It actually kind of, those stories got microscoped into what the School of Living Astrology is. And so that's the simple version of it.
Wow. Yeah. You guys, what do you think? I mean, that is so amazing. It actually just reveals another layer of intelligence behind all of it for me, just the way that you've woven that story, and it's so true, and how much that grounds our understanding of the planet. So I would just love to hear from the audience how you experienced that. I have a feeling many people are going to be re-listening to that whole thing you just said. I'm so glad we went there because that was amazing. All right. Okay. So for people who are intrigued, and I'm sure there's many out there who are intrigued, and actually I'm hearing from people, cool, fantastic, amazing. Where do I sign up? I love it. I'm finally feeling the planets. Love this. Thank you so much, Tyler. Beautiful storytelling capacity. So yes, we're feeling it. Tell us how we can work with you. If there's people out there who want to explore your school or have a reading, or how do they get in touch?
Yeah, so I have the website. It's called thechironium.com. And there's a whole lot of stuff you can look on there. I have I actually just put up for this purpose. I had a free mini course that goes through those stories. So it's a 4-part series. And you can sign up for free and go on that journey with those stories like I just shared. And then each year around the springtime, I open up the School of Living Astrology, which is a program where basically we take these stories and we amplify them and we move along with the seasons. So we start at Aries, move all the way through. And I have 2 programs. I have a really in-depth one called the Sola Online Program, which is 45 videos over the course of 15 months. And then I have the smaller version it's called the Seasonal Cosmology Program, which is just 13 videos that go along with the seasons. And so that opens up at that time. I'm going to be creating some smaller programs that can be accessed at any time. So that's, if you're interested in that, again, we already started this year's journey, but next year we'll do it again. And then, you can contact me also at tyler@thechironium.com if you wanted a consultation. And also I have a Facebook group where I try and interact with people and just share little interesting bits and learn from each other, and trying to create a community just like, you guys have done, just bringing people together. And so right now, like I said, I just made that available where you can go see those introductory stories and kind of go from there. And I'd love to hear from people and answer questions or anything like that too, and just continue to share what's in my heart, what's my vision is, and learn also along the way. So thanks for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
You are going to be hearing from people. You already are hearing from people. I hope that you can go in and interact with people in the comments below this video, because people are on fire about this. This is really fun to see. Someone was saying that okay, what's the name of your Facebook group? We have that question.
So I have the School of Living Astrology Facebook group, and then I think there's a Living Astrology group from that group or something.
Okay.
But yeah, that's how. And then you can also probably just look up my name and find it that way as well. But
Tyler Penor. Penor. Okay. And then also Liz says, FYI, it's saying Tyler's free Living Astrology mini course is no longer available. So that's a mistake, right? Because it is available.
Yeah, I think I just made it available, but I think I had to change some text in there. So I'll go in there and I'll change it. But I
Okay.
think you should be able to just enter your name and email and it should take you right to it. But as soon as we get off here, I'll double check on that. Like I said, I'd shut it down a month ago. And so I just thought for this purpose, I'd put it back up for everybody.
That was a good idea.
Yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
after this, I'll go check and make sure it's running smoothly.
Okay, fantastic. All right. You're located Dorte wants to know where you are. You're in Washington State, but where exactly?
In Kingston, Washington, on the
Kingston. Okay.
on the
And
peninsula.
then Jen wants to know what degree your Chiron is.
14 degrees Gemini,
Okay.
opposite my 13-degree Sag moon and 15-degree Uranus Sag. So it's like this perfect alignment, and Chiron fits right in between.
Okay, so Sun, Moon, Rising, Libra, Sun, Sag, Moon.
Scorpio, and end of Scorpio rising, 28 degrees.
Okay,
And then
fantastic.
Saturn on the ascendant, Uranus by the moon, and Pluto kind of by the sun.
Great. Everybody always likes to know.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're all guessing the whole time. Wow, was it? Did I get it? Okay. All right, perfect. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we close up?
No, just I guess thank you, and also a thank you to Gemini Brett too for plugging this in, and yeah, just really appreciate the opportunity to share, and look forward to continuing to share more and learn and hear from people too and other astrologers. This is a really cool thing you guys are doing. So yeah, just really enjoying you guys bringing astrologers together too, and so we can share our wisdom, giving a voice to people. And so yeah, just kind of applaud you for doing that. It's really
Aw, thank you.
helpful, so
It's
thank you.
truly our pleasure. And we're getting lots of requests for more Tyler. More Tyler, please. So it would be wonderful to have you back sometime. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad we got you. You got on a roll there, and it was like, oh, okay, that's what he's talking about. There's like the passion. It just came through so clear, and you really do have a gift at weaving those stories. So thank you very, very much for sharing with us. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And again, if you would like to download the free astrological calendar that we put out at the beginning of the year, it's still relevant for you for the rest of the year. The link is in the chat and in the video. You'll get affirmations and a journal prompt and a theme for each new and full moon, plus all the aspects and everything. So it's really an amazing gift, and I hope that you all take advantage of it. I want to thank you all for making astrology a part of your life, and I can't wait to see you next week. Same time, same place. Take care, everybody.